Atheist Nomads, episode 426. Is it interesting if true?
The podcast you're about to listen to includes cursing and talking about hoo-haws. Please be advised.
Welcome to another episode of Atheist Nomads. I am Dustin, and joining me is Aaron from the Interesting If True podcast.
Hey, I'm Aaron, and that's true, but not very interesting.
Well, this isn't your first time on the show. You were last on sometime around 2016. No, it was 2017. I know it was 2017 because it was one of the episodes I recorded to create the backlog for podcast paternity leave. So, yeah, that was definitely 2017. And so it's been about 3.5 years since you've last been on. Or 4 years.
It has been a while. Let's see if we, apparently I was on episode 132 and 316. So.
Oh, wow. And now this is 426.
I'm spacing it out.
Yeah.
That's the trick. Leave them wanting more.
And you've been on twice. Huh.
Well, yeah. I guess my notes don't mention who came on, but someone from our studio has been on a couple of times.
All right. Cool. I think it was you both times.
Okay, I'll take credit for it. If it wasn't me, undoubtedly smarter things were said, so I'll definitely take credit.
So then that must have been you and Steve and you and Shay.
I think that is correct.
I know Jen hasn't.
Right. We're poking her on that, by the way.
Yeah. All right, so for your third time on, you are no longer doing Waiting for Wrath.
Yeah.
You are instead doing the show that Waiting for Wrath turned into.
Yeah, it's true. Toward the end of Waiting for Wrath, we do a headline segment like the one we'll get into, but then we did a second half that was usually fun stories, and that kind of became the thing that we cared about the most. So we thought, it's hard to be in the same room and share a beer during a pandemic, so we should probably retool this thing a little bit. Which is the excuse I'm going to use, though, if memory serves. We started the new show before the pandemic. But
you shut down the old show and then the pandemic, and then you launched in pandemic.
Right, yeah, because we're good at timing. But yeah, so the new show is a bit shorter. It's basically the second half of Waiting for Wrath. So we do a little intro. Now that we're back in the studio, we do a little beer and a little hi, how are you? It's usually a couple of minutes long. And then we dive right into debunking some nonsense like treating COVID with radium, for example, or radon.
Right.
Yeah, it's not what you want, generally speaking. And then we do a little patron segment that is basically the same. So it's a shorter show now, but less crass. We do even censor the particularly bad language in the public cut. And, we're trying to do a little skeptical thing and have some fun. Although I think we might do a Waiting for Wrath reunion episode or two here in the near future.
Oh, nice.
In the near future.
Well, and one of the things I do recall from the last time you were on was that, the reason why you were not doing headlines is it was getting really hard in, 2017, especially, to not have headlines about Trump.
Yeah, we did a Trump moratorium, and I mean, they were just all the same, right? Like, how many times can you spin crazy person says nonsensical stuff into TV and hope that it doesn't explode our planet? So yeah, we kind of called a moratorium on that, and because it was so domineering in the news cycle, particularly the religious news cycle, it got really difficult. And we already had kind of a soft moratorium on the really dark stuff, which kind of became the filler that everybody was covering in lieu of Trump, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it got depressing in an awful hurry. And then you add to that kind of life changes that we all had at the same time there. And then it went into the pandemic, and it was just for our own mental health. It was untenable.
Oh, yeah.
So now we still make jokes about nonsense, but we try to be a little bit less doom and gloom about it.
Right. And that's not a bad way to do it.
I mean, we had to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, I listened to Interesting If True. The stories range from why the hell did they waste their time on this to oh my god, that was the most amazing way of distracting myself while doing this mundane task at work.
Oh yeah, we are the lawnmower beer of podcasts. It's
Well, the stories are they're well researched. They're interesting. You know, the relatively recent one on the beer winches, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, we get into the history. Turns out that beer brewing was forever until the industrial. Well, that's not true. Forever until the Middle Ages.
Inquisition.
Inquisition. Yes, there we go. Handled by ladies, and they did a damn fine job of it until, you know, there was not a splainer in sight, so somebody had to fix that.
Yeah.
Now we have PBR.
Yeah. But like with the Inquisition, there was they killed somewhere in the ballpark of half of all German women.
Oh yeah, there was plenty of
it was
imagined
insane.
reason. Yeah, it was absolutely insane, and a large number of those were the Brewsters, which is you know, kind of what they called themselves, because things like putting a broom over your doorway to signify that you were a brew house, or a big picture of a, you know, boil and trouble kettle. You know, these are the things that indicated that you made liquid that was safe to drink back in the day. And, you know, also you probably had a cat to keep mice out of your grain. So naturally you're a witch.
Mm-hmm.
And since you weigh more than a goose, we have to burn you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Logic need not apply. Yeah.
Yeah. The logic there of, yeah, you must be made out of wood. So therefore you will be easy to light on fire. If it's wood, you must light it on fire.
Hey, like, only things that contain the element of fire can be set ablaze. We all know that. So clearly it's the sin in your heart burning you from the inside out.
Because, yeah, and in that particular time period, you had the church burning witches, and then you had Protestants burning Catholics and Catholics burning Protestants. And basically like all of Central Europe was on fire for...
Yeah.
It's the Inquisition and the 30 Years' War. Like, it was not easy for anyone.
And they only saw one of those things coming. Yeah, it was a problem. Everything that wasn't on fire literally was on fire figuratively. Do not want. So yeah, we spent an amount of time taking the piss out of the ye olde times. But you'll be happy to know I still intentionally misspell. Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I gave Aaron shit about the letter Thorn, because as soon as I learned about the letter Thorn, it was like the coolest thing ever, and why don't we still have it? It's the Old English combination of T and H. TH had its own letter until they got German printing presses.
Oh, yeah.
And so started using Y instead, because you never used Y in any word, so at least not the beginning of a word. So just... That's close enough.
That's close. That's good enough. That's how we do a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
It's close enough. Horseshoes and grammar. Same thing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's... You know, you talk about missing characters. I really miss the interrobang. That is the question mark and the exclamation point that are kind of overprinted, so they look to be the same character.
Ooh, nice.
For a long time, that was... The hope was that would become the sarcasm character, but it never really caught on, although you can still use an interrobang in most Word documents. So if you really want to please your English professor, there's some trivia for you.
All right. All right. Well, if people want to find Interesting If True, where can they go?
They should look for interestingiftrue.com or just search for that. You can find our current archive and show at Interesting If True, and the old Waiting for Wrath archive at Interesting If True, and links to our Patreon account with the full back catalog. We did truncate the older episodes of Waiting for Wrath because, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to some news.
Yeah. And I love that sound effect.
Had it forever.
It is one of my favorite interstitial sound effects of the shows that I listen to.
And custom made for the podcast.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's got a delightful little Looney Tunes kind of bent to it that lets you know exactly what you're in for.
All right. Kent Hovind, creationist asshole, total piece of shit.
Yeah, this guy is an embarrassment to Hawaiian print shirts.
Yeah, this isn't Ken Ham. That's the other creationist asshole, bigoted piece of shit. This is Kent Hovind, who he had his first wife, and they got a divorce. He was probably cheating on her.
Almost certainly.
With the person who became his second wife, and then, not getting the divorce going through with the second wife, he got a spiritual wife, which everybody else would call a mistress or girlfriend, and they broke up, so he body slammed her.
No, don't do that.
Well, fortunately, despite being a pastor and well-known, horrible bigot, he is getting to spend 30 days in jail.
He is of his year, which is incredibly frustrating, especially since this isn't the first time he's come up on domestics, right? Like he's been to prison for this before. Although I think he served 9 of 10 years prison sentence in 2007, starting in 2007, I want to say, for tax evasion and a whole bunch of fraud.
Yep.
And like 58 counts of, like wire fraud and mail fraud and also domestic violence. He's familiar with how it goes, but somehow he's still getting the pastor credits where sentencing is concerned.
And hasn't lost control of Dinosaur Land, Dinosaur Adventure Land.
Dinosaur Adventure Land, the yet worse version of the Ark Park.
It's the original.
The original and not since upgraded. The pictures now are delightful, by the way. I don't know if you clicked through any of the links that Friendly Atheist provided, but the ones that document how things are going today are particularly delightful.
Oh, man. It is. Yeah.
So, I guess he has to pay a $500 fine, court costs, $100 bail bond, which that's not even a speeding ticket, and then $2,100 to cover Lincoln, the lady Cindy Lincoln's medical expenses, which also does not seem like a sufficient penalty.
No, especially when you consider the $100 bail bond fee means they set bail at $1,000.
Oh, is that what?
And he showed up.
Having never been arrested because I'm not Kent Hovind, I have no idea how these things work.
The idea is there's the full bail and you pay 10% of that and you can't get that back. To a bail bondsman who pays the full amount to the judge or to the court. And if you do show up, the bail bondsman gets the 90% back. If you don't show up, the bail bondsman will break your legs.
Oh, that sounds like a lucrative business model.
Yep.
Was that like Dog the Bounty Hunter for people who don't want to work weekends?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Friend of the court thugs.
Okay.
Basically, it's quite the racket. But yeah, so $100 bail bond fee means that they set bail way too low.
Yeah. Yeah, for a guy making millions on the grift, yeah.
For somebody who has literally spent many, many years in prison.
Yeah, repeat offender much.
Yeah.
Right? It's not what you want. Although they did say that he has to surrender all of his firearms to the Kenosha. There's no way that's that word. Kenosha County Sheriff's Office. So I guess at least there's that. There's no way he's giving, like, maybe all the registered firearms, right? Like, he's keeping his trebuchet firmly parked in the church's parking lot.
No, the way that would probably go down is you give enough to make the cops think you're giving them all of them to them, right, and you give the rest to a friend.
Yeah, right. Those aren't firearms. Those are communion assistive devices. It's entirely different. They shoot crackers. It's fine. Yeah.
Man.
No, he should be in jail for a lot longer than this. I mean, and he's still married to the last lady, like on paper. Also domestic violence charges. His first wife that he's properly divorced from, also domestic violence. Like, it's just, at what point does being a quote unquote good Pastor McGee like stop helping you?
It doesn't.
Oh.
Well, actually, we do have a story coming up where it does.
Oh yeah, we do. Actually, yeah.
Let's actually move that one up to next.
All right.
In Oklahoma City, a 9-year-old boy told his dad about the fully grown man who was coming to the school bus stop and touching his back in a way that made him feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So the dad responded by waiting just barely out of sight in his car. And then when he saw the guy pull up, he pulled forward in the car and saw him touching his kid and did what any dad would do in that situation, and got out of the car and chased the pastor down, tackled him to the ground, and cracked his skull.
Yeah, he beat this dude with proper intent. I was chuckling when we opened up this story, and this is obviously not a funny story.
No.
But every article that reports on this opens up with his like booking photo, I guess you could say, which is just like, yeah, this dude got his ass beat, which is, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
If there's a silver lining to be had, it's that this guy has apparently a fractured skull and a broken orbital bone, which you don't generally want to take pleasure in human suffering, but he's a pederast, so
He was taken to the hospital and he was checked out and cleared to go to jail.
Yeah, you can be in a cell. Like, yeah, your skull is broken, but that's fine. That's fine.
There's a part of me that wonders if the attending physician saw the police report and it's like, oh, he was touching a kid. Oh,
yeah, he's fine.
He's a pastor.
You don't have to put film in the camera.
Yes, he's good. He's good.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. All the bleeding's internal, and to borrow a joke, that's where the blood's meant to be. Yeah, no, this is Michael Erik Coghill, 33, of the Lacoma Church of Christ. So that's exciting. Apparently, yeah, he was out for the morning jog, which is apparently just a jog around the 30 or 8700 block.
Mm-hmm. To the school bus stop
in a circle until kids show up at the bus stop.
Yeah.
Like that's his route back and forth creepily by a bus stop because he's a creeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the church did say to the, KWTX, that he passed the background check and they've never had any complaints about him.
Haven't they?
What this tells me is he went into being a pastor for all the wrong reasons, to get away with messing with kids, and got out of seminary just as it was very clear that if he touched any kid at church, they know his name and where he lives and can get the cops to him. So instead, find strangers and mess with stranger children.
Yeah. He was just out on the prowl. He's a prowler. He was out on the prowl.
Literally.
Literally. Yeah, it's horrible. And yeah, sure, they came up clean on a background check, but how thorough do you think that really, truly was? And as far as the, no reports or claims against him during his tenure, unquote, the church, any church, honestly, you don't have to look very far for a long documented track record of ignoring reports and claims. So, that just all rings hollow. I can't possibly trust that.
The other possibility is the person who was speaking for the church doesn't know about any complaints because nobody wrote them down.
Right, because the PR person doesn't get access to the father, whatever, priest, head honcho guy's logs. Right.
So that's also entirely possible. Either scenario is horrible, and he will be spending quite a few years in jail.
Let's hope so.
Hopefully this won't be one where the pastor title doesn't get him off easy.
Well, my reading of the social media posts from the church and kind of surrounding this guy makes me feel like the church was in an awful hurry to cut ties with him. Right? Like, they end their quote with, "We will cooperate with authorities as needed," which is not something you're accustomed to hearing from a religious organization, certainly. I think that this might be a case of, maybe they didn't need X many ministers at this church, so they're going to cut him loose and let him be the example that they can all say, "See, we care about this stuff." I mean, maybe that's just a really cynical take from me, but
it is possible that they're being sincere and they didn't know, and he was keeping it all off the clock.
Yeah,
it's possible. It'll be interesting to see what details come out later.
Yeah, I'll say it's possible. Call me a skeptic, though. Snare drum.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way, check out this story. I'm sure there'll be a link in the show notes. This is the picture of a man who got caught doing what he got caught doing. And I challenge you not to have at least a little bit of schadenfreude.
Now, okay, to be fair, this is the second story in 2 weeks about pastors getting punched in the face.
It is. It is.
I am not advocating for punching pastors in the face.
No.
It is...
No, don't take MMA advice from a podcast.
Yeah, do not punch pastors in the face. If it's a pedophile pastor, I can't tell you not to.
In the same way that I would advise you not to punch a Nazi in the face, let's just say that, look, if you can stop a pedophile from pedophiling, that makes you better than his God. So how you decide to do that is up to you.
If a dad sees somebody touching his kids, he's going to go apeshit. That's pretty much
that's what you do.
Guaranteed.
It's basically the job description.
Now, of course, there are some dads who turn that around backwards, like Pastor Roger Jimenez of the Verity Baptist Church in Sacramento, California, who has been doing videos about important Christian matters like homeschooling your kids, having large families, and beating your kids until it hurts.
Yeah, the real critical issues of the day. Yeah, this video is deeply, deeply uncomfortable to watch. I managed to watch the other video that we're going to talk about the lady finally getting vaccinated. This one I couldn't. It was tough.
Oh, man. Yeah. So his church is New Independent Fundamentalist Baptist.
That's a lot of qualifiers.
So if we parse that out, Baptist, meaning they are at least historically linked to the Baptist movement and do adult baptism and were at least historically Calvinistic.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentalist, meaning they read the entire Bible literally. Independent, meaning they can't get along with any larger organization, and he's not going to let anybody tell him what to do.
Yep.
And new, meaning the last time he tried this, he failed.
That's delightful. Yeah, no, it's almost certainly true on the count of advocating beating kids. That's typically ill-received.
So he specifically went into, he's not talking about beating kids. He's not talking about abuse. He's talking about spanking children. Because God gave kids a fleshy, padded spot with lots of nerve endings where you can inflict pain without causing injury.
Also, listening to all these guys and their silly euphemisms for ass, like, could you just say it? You're talking about kids' asses, man. Just... so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So uncomfortable.
He also claimed that there is lots of evidence that if you sufficiently beat your children, that they will love you and obey their teachers, bosses, the authorities, and their husbands.
Yeah, that last part is so gross. Like, the bosses and the teachers are bad enough, but then you just get like, obviously, you're going to listen to your husband, right? He has the penis. That's what makes him right? So problematic.
Yeah.
And he does. He addresses the beating portion. Quote, sometimes people hear the word beat and they get the wrong idea. Like, no shit, man. Like, they might get the idea that you're hitting your kid. Oh, right.
Yep.
You are.
Like, there's Lauren and I don't spank Kylie. She's 3.5 years old. So believe me when I say there are times where I can't think of anything else to do. So I walk away.
Yeah, it turns out as an adult, you can make that choice.
Yep. You just close the door and walk away.
Yeah, like, pardon me, I'm going to have to go count to 10 for a, 10 count. Yeah, you can do that. You can elect not to be violent.
Adults need timeouts too.
Yeah, for real, right? We were talking about PBR and old fashions. It's okay.
And there is the mild spanking. I am not going to fault parents who need to do a little bit of spanking. If you're intentionally trying to hit your kid hard enough to make sure it hurts on a regular basis, the attitude there, I grew up hearing about this attitude. It is breaking the will of the child.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think I'm the first generation in my family who wasn't sent to go cut their own switch when they screwed up. And I gotta say, like, nobody I know who grew up in that situation, I think, benefited from it. Best case scenario, you've got a whole bunch of people who are really desensitized and have, these people as senses about violence toward children. But yeah, I don't know. Feel free to send your frustrated hate mail to Aaron@interestingiftrue.com, but I'm going to go ahead and say you probably just shouldn't spank your kids. It feels like there's so many other things that you can do. Resorting to violence is, it's an easy answer, and it is an answer that comes naturally, I think, to most sentient creatures, but it's not a good one. Like, it feels like you've run out of choices and you're just going to do the thing that, like, lets you get your aggression out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know. This guy claims that there are, the evidence all says that, beating your kid until you have completely broken the child's will, is how you get a child that loves you and is well adjusted and will function well in society, when the evidence is actually the opposite.
Right. Like, I've done no small amount of reading about early childhood education and whatnot, and nowhere in any of that was like, maybe hit them. That's not how that goes. Like maybe if you're confusing love and Stockholm syndrome, but beyond that, maybe don't hit your kids. or your pets. Like, while we're at it, just maybe don't resort to violence.
Right. Yeah. You don't need to beat your wife with a stick smaller than your thumb. Just don't do it. Genuinely, just don't do it.
I don't know. Maybe that's coming from a couple of guys who aren't burdened with anger management issues, but still, like, it can't be that hard to make a different decision. Not like I've certainly never wanted to punch somebody and then decided not to. I got punched in the bar once by a literal Nazi. Did not hit him back. Just saying. Could have. Would have won, too. He was real drunk.
Let's see. I've been in one bar fight, and the last time I punched somebody, I think, was when I was 14.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 15. It was 15. I crossed 6 foot tall, and nobody touched me ever again.
That helps. Yeah. I had to rely on being funny. I think probably the last time I threw a punch was my freshman year of college. And there was a guy at a house party that was being a little too gropey McGroperson, and there was a lot of throwing him out, and then finally somebody had to make sure that it stuck. So I drew the short straw and felt bad about it for a long time afterwards.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't like it. I don't like the idea that violence is the way to go on some of these things.
And there are cases where it makes sense.
Our last story.
There's alcohol involved.
Sure.
When you're dealing with a small child, you're bigger than the child. There are always other options.
Yeah, no. Anytime if you're going to hit a child or an animal or a lady or a just from these guys' perspective, a lady or somebody that's smaller than you, like that's just a function of you needing to be intimidating in order to feel right, which is indicative of a much deeper problem. Like that's not you doing anything correct, and it's sure as hell not you doing anything beneficial to any other party involved.
All right. In Germany, a new survey has found that only 33% of people say that religion is important to them.
Awesome. Good beer and that. That's...
Yeah.
Good work, Germany.
12% said that they thought religion could make the world a better place.
12% of Germans are employed by the church. What? Where?
25% say that it had political significance.
Yeah? I don't know that much about German politics.
I
know that Merkel's Conservative Party just lost, which is probably good news for everybody involved.
We've had confirmed by listeners in Germany that there are still state-collected tithes.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
You register your religion with the government, and they will take money out of your paycheck.
Right. We did a story on Waiting for Wrath way back in the day about a secular quote-unquote church who you could tithe to, who would then cut you a check back for your money. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a mess.
Across all of Germany, 30% describe themselves as devout or very devout, and 35% say they aren't devout at all. In southern and western Germany, where they are the most religious,
always the South,
it's 35% who describe themselves as devout or very devout in southern Germany, and in western Germany, it's 32%.
Yeah. I love, as an American, or, well, somebody living in America, I love that they're describing that 3-point difference as being noteworthy. Like, I would be so happy if anywhere here was under 50.
In Eastern Germany, only 21% of people describe themselves as devout.
That's good.
61% of Germans said that religion was not important or not important at all.
I wonder what the breakdown between those two response options are. Either way, that's, good numbers.
61 to 30, so there would have been another 9% in between.
Okay.
Not sure. Interestingly, they found that the 18 to 29-year-old group was the most positive towards religion and less strong in their views.
That does contradict the demographics that we see in Canada, America, the UK, Australia, kind of, when you group countries together, that does kind of fly in the face of their, I guess, peers.
Well, we're at the point where, as far as kind of like the loss of religion in the US and Canada is growing, and it's not a whole lot of second generation not religious people.
Right.
Very few third generation. Kylie will actually get to claim third generation on one side.
Nice.
So that's pretty impressive, but that's really rare. And so but in places like Germany, they lost religion en masse after World War II.
Sure.
Across a lot of Europe with the devastation and destruction, and how much of that was done in the name of religion. And the number of wars they'd had in the name of religion. And
those things will spoil you on the topic, won't they?
And then getting these nice, strong social safety nets, and you don't need the church for anything. It's just this historical relic that takes care of old buildings.
Yeah, really.
And
culturally vestigial.
At that point, if you're going to be getting a young rebellion on ideals, it'd be going back to church.
Oh, well, now you made it sad.
That, or religious people are having more babies than non-religious. And the demographics are otherwise pretty stable.
Yeah, I don't really know much about Germany's births and deaths situation, but it does kind of track that if your parents aren't into church, maybe you go dabble in religion. I mean, how many Christian people's kids dabble in Wicca or esotericism or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
And especially if it's pushed in the schools. And I don't know how secular education is in Germany, but I know in like Britain, there are religious services in every school in Britain.
Yeah, I have a couple of German friends. Anecdotally, I can say that they haven't mentioned it. I don't. That's even a bad anecdote.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if it's ingrained in their schools or not. Interesting.
Yeah. Cool data, though.
Yeah, I mean, all of that continues to point in the right direction, right? So let's see. In Germany, almost all education policy is determined at the state level. Each state has a different approach to teaching religion, some allowing input from churches or religious organizations, other barring it completely. Okay, so it looks like it's a grab bag, according to infogrants.net. So take that with a grain of salt.
All right. So, yeah, it could be that in the southern and western states of Germany, they allow more encroachment into schools, and that keeps a foothold.
Telling you, man, it's always the South.
All right, it's time for a quick break. Before recording, Lauren thought it would be a good idea to explain what Patreon is for people who haven't been around since it launched and heard the explanation then. It is a crowdsourcing service created to help fans give money to creators. Like, that's the only thing it exists to do. It's to help people who want to support independent creators' work, give them money. The creators on Patreon can do perks and specials and exclusives. And as a general rule of thumb, I don't. For two reasons. One is it takes work, and it's extra work that I don't have time for. And two is under the latest rules, they have to collect sales tax sometimes. And by not doing special perks, it's not taxable in most places. And if you add certain amounts of perks, it does become taxable in certain jurisdictions, and that can get messy. So
I just need to move to Wyoming, man. There's no state tax here.
Really?
Yeah. And if you're wondering how we pay for everything, the answer to that is fuck off.
Oh, man. Yeah, while I'm here in Tax, Idaho, where if you're a private citizen, they tax you every time you touch money.
Oh, geez. Sounds a lot like socialism, communism, Marxism to me.
If you're
all the same,
if you're a corporation, they don't want your money. So sales tax, income tax, property tax, the highest vehicle registrations in the Northwest.
Oh, wow.
Or at least the highest I've ever paid.
Last time I got plates cost me $20.
It's $75 a year.
Jeez. So what I'm hearing is that you need a lot of people to go to patreon.com/atheistnomads.
Yes.
And sign up for as little as $1 an episode.
Exactly. Yes, that's why I invited you along. Yeah, if you want to support the show, patreon.com. You can also do one-time donations through PayPal at paypal.me/atheistnomads. All of that help is always greatly appreciated. And you can also buy shit from our store. You can get shirts, mugs, magnets, or anything else that they will print our logo on. And we get a pretty significant cut of that sale. You can find that at atheistnomads.com/store. If you get confused, you can also put in atheistnomads.com/shirt, and it will also get you there.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. Logo shirt. Yeah. $21 for a fine Atheist Nomads logo shirt.
I got
100%
mine.
cotton. That is fantastic.
I got mine. It's incredibly comfortable. The quality of the printing is way higher than I expected.
Yeah. Yeah. TeePublic does good stuff.
It was, quite pleased. And I've enjoyed working with them so far. They were very patient with me.
Yeah, these look great. So yeah, you should visit atheistnomads.com/store and pick up a shirt, sticker, kid's shirt, mug, mask, or that's so much stuff. Look at this.
You can
these hoodies look great.
You can even get a onesie for your toddler, for your infant. Yeah.
Laptop case, phone case, bag of holding. Look at this.
Literally, they've got suppliers that will print it on anything.
Anything that goes on the outside of you can get their logo on.
Yep. Yeah. And if you want to contact us, we've got the SpeakPipe button on the website to record audio feedback. Email always works. Feedback at atheistnomads.com works best. Or you can use the contact form on the website. There are Christian moms they go by the name of Moms for Liberty. They are
Moms for Liberty who want you to do what they want you to do.
Yep. They are very concerned about what's going on in schools. Like in the past, they have been concerned with talking about civil rights heroes.
They're real concerned about that.
They didn't like a book about poisonous animals because it talked about horned lizards squirting blood out of their eyes.
I mean, kinda. Keeping in mind that these are all children's books.
They objected to Johnny Appleseed because the story is sad and dark.
Oh, yeah.
Greek and Roman mythology, which, okay, granted, there's a lot of really disturbing stuff in Greek and Roman mythology.
Yeah, that can go downhill pretty quickly.
But specifically, the famous Venus painting was their
Venus
objection.
de Milo? Yeah.
No, the Venus coming out of the ocean.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
The story of Tantalus cooking up, serving, and eating his son.
Sure.
They were opposed to a book about hurricanes. Because first grade...
scare the kids.
Yeah, first grade is just... It's too young to hear about the effects of hurricanes. They're in Tennessee, so...
So what do you want?
They just got hit by a tropical depression and had horrible flooding. So, maybe kids should know about them.
Well, you could take the time to explain climate, weather, wind cycles, hurricanes, storms, or you could just say God and call it a day.
Yeah.
One of those is a lot easier. And, it's hard to say that, our house got wrecked because Tennessee is in the way of everything versus, if only you had done your chores, you wouldn't have been smoten. But
you think you'd like I've had to explain hurricanes to Kylie.
Yeah.
It's not hard to explain that at an age-appropriate level to children. It's a big storm. Kids know what storms are.
Right? Yeah, it's extra bad rain. Like, did you read through their spreadsheet?
I didn't go past the article here.
Oh, dude, I opened up all their research material. Oh, my God. No. It's delightful. It's 11 pages long, printed as a PDF in 4-point font. It is an absurdity of nonsense. But the video linked in this, in the story linked in the show notes, if you skip forward to 2 minutes and 23 seconds, you'll see the bit about seahorses fucking.
Yep.
And that's not how the book describes it. First of all, but they even go out of their way to talk about how apparently seahorses are largely monogamous. And they try to make that all mommy daddy seahorse time. Mm-hmm. But apparently the offending bit comes from male seahorses carry fertilized eggs in their pouch, which also apparently seahorses have pouches. I didn't know they were wee little kangaroos, but there you go. But apparently...
Right, so you learned about seahorse anatomy.
I did. I learned some things about seahorses. Apparently they are also gender fluid based on environmental stuff. So that's obviously going to make your kids, sin or something. Sin horses.
Human children aren't fish.
Yeah. So they say, quote, We humans tend to think of who we are as mostly fixed, but in the ocean, identity can be fluid, a fluid and mysterious thing, end quote, which apparently is just blasphemy up one side and down the other. I did not know that.
Lauren had plotties, these little white and orange fish that over the course of, what she bought was all male.
Okay.
And that was all fine and good until one of them became a female.
As happens.
And had babies.
Sure.
Who were all male, because that's how plotties work. They're all born male. And when a female dies, the biggest male becomes a female.
Oh.
And that happened successively over several generations until they got so inbred in this tank that they went extinct. They extincted themselves.
Oh, one fish and 50 fins.
It was insane. No crazy number of fins. More just curved backs.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, like spinal.
So are these like fry 'em up fish?
No, they're like
little tiny
2 inches
fish,
long, fully grown.
Oh, that's no good.
Yeah, they're not big fish.
I was say for a second there, you could have the world's weirdest fish fry, but
yeah. But they're communal fish that they sell them to be communal fish, and they don't tell you that if you get enough of them, one of them's going to become a female and they're going to start having babies.
That every population of them is a breeding population?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's what you want.
And then they'll eat their babies.
Oh.
So there's usually only one or two babies that manage to escape getting eaten to get big enough to not be eaten and then join the mating pool. And they had a problem with seahorses.
Stuff right there. Seahorses, they did. They had a lot of seahorse-related troubles.
Yeah.
They were... So, speaking of the books, there's a book called Feelings, apparently, and is used to teach little kids about feelings. It's aptly named in that way. Their problem was, quote, negative emotions. Page 8 and 9, bullying and mean behavior, and dark content on page 9, featuring extreme jealousy, unfiltered anger, death of a pet, insecurity, and name-calling. Not things you would expect to be in a book about feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait.
Okay, so by the time I was, let's go with 10, I had experienced, I think, everything you just listed off.
For real, right?
Yeah.
Like you can get that list of situations dealt with, like, if you have a somewhat unfortunate early childhood, just, like, by virtue of a sibling or a friend getting a bigger Lego set, right? Like, I think that covers everything but the death of a friend. Or a pet.
Yeah.
Or a friend. Like, it's absurd. There's a book called The First Nations of North America, Plains Indians. There's a couple of them. This one's about the Plains Indians. Their complaint about this one is, in its entirety, quote, paints white people in a negative light.
That's fair.
That's historically accurate.
They had an objection to a book about Galileo.
They did.
Because it painted the Catholic Church in a negative light.
Yeah. Because they didn't immediately accept him, as no, that's definitely not what happened.
And they wanted to know, where's the hero of the church?
There are not a lot of those.
Yeah.
I mean, even their main guy spit and rubbed mud in a blind dude's face. Like, come on.
Oh, man.
Oh, so there's some Ruby Bridges books, a couple of them, and these, of course, deal with stories from the perspective of a young African-American girl. And the problems with those are, quote, race.
Oh, just
that was the end of that sentence. For the second book, shows the oppression of colored people and demonizes whites as their problem. They go on to say that it causes shame for young, impressionable white children to read this dark history.
All right.
Yeah.
Turns
out those histories weren't so lovely. So that's the rub. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. In all practicality, when historians are writing about the, say, first 300 years of the United States, 500 years from now.
Right.
They're going to be describing everything until some, hopefully, future point about how white people were horrible to everybody else.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be right up until that hypothetical publication date, but here's to hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a... This is one of my favorites. The Keeping Quilt. I don't know what that book's about, but neither do they, because they read the wrong version of it. Noted that in their spreadsheet. The version that's being taught is the 25th anniversary version. The version they read was the 10th anniversary version. They went ahead and listed all their problems with the 10th and figured that would do.
Oh, nice.
It's probably the same.
Oh, man.
One literally just says, quote, talking about race issues, sick. Yeah, and finally, the cream of the crop, really. Quote, children are to put themselves in Ruby's shoes to tell the story in the first person. Oh no, empathy. Oh no, won't someone think of the children? Oh no. Like, there's so much. Seriously, the spreadsheet is a gold mine of insane nonsense. At one point, one of the cells just randomly is a diatribe about, quote, teachers asking what a just world might mean, end quote, is apparently the path to hell. Like, literally, this is about going to hell, is their comment. I don't even know how to interpret that.
All right, so Moms for Liberty don't want kids to be taught, apparently.
Well, they would like you to not know about things that make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes, really what it boils down to.
Just stick to the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but not doing, don't read those books, read other books.
Well, there's really only one, right?
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, just read the one book. Yep.
Especially the part about bears killing you.
Yeah.
That's important. That's not dark and scary at all.
And the breasts that are as sweet as flowing milk and honey.
Yep, those.
That's also in the Bible.
That is. As long as you don't get dashed on the rocks, it'll be fine. Those are all biblically accurate jokes about murdering children. Yeah.
Okay, you went with murdering children. I went with the descriptions of sex.
Oh, yeah. No, that's true. That's true. You got to have the children to murder from somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, so many horrible, horrible stories in the Bible that would horrify those moms.
Right? The she-bears one in particular is one of my favorites because there's no wiggle room, right? Like, angry old man gets called bald by children. Angry old man uses power of God to make she-bears eat children. The end.
Okay, yeah. If you're a middle-aged or old man and you're bald, okay, you're probably bald, and kids will probably make fun of that.
At some point, you're going to hear about it.
That's just life.
Right? You could get yourself, work on your comb-over game, not your commanding bears to murder children game. Come on, Bible.
In Spokane, Washington, Covenant Church has lost in court. They were sued by Planned Parenthood for blocking access to Planned Parenthood for years. They were holding a not official group there at the Planned Parenthood called the Church at Planned Parenthood.
TCAP.
And they were keeping the protests legal in a very strict sense.
Yeah, in the razor-thin definition of the sentence, yes.
In that they were protesting outside of the clinic on the sidewalk. The problem is they were harassing anybody trying to go into the clinic and also blocking access to the actual clinic because they were blocking the sidewalk.
Right. They were shoulder to shoulder, the length of the sidewalk in front of the building, and like from the sidewalk to the front door of the building is a couple of feet. So effectively blocking the door to the building, but your feet are on the sidewalk, so it's safe seas.
So the Spokane County Superior Judge who dealt with the case, Raymond Clary, put a temporary restraining order in place last September. This required that they stay at least 35 feet away from the building and wait until after 6 p.m. when the clinic stopped accepting patients for the day. So wait till everybody's inside and then you can start your protest, but stay 35 feet away. The problem was the cops wouldn't enforce that restraining order against anybody who wasn't specifically named in the lawsuit.
Yeah. And I got to imagine they weren't exactly motivated on site, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, maybe that's just cynical old Aaron looking at the demographics of it, but somehow I don't see a bunch of Spokane PD being real up for protecting women's bodily autonomy.
Yeah. So the judge had to update the restraining order. This new order came from Superior Court Judge Timothy B. Fennessy, who made the injunction permanent and made it clear that it involved everyone in the group, not just the leaders. So now the police actually have to enforce it because the judge filled all of the holes.
And I would love to be a fly on that briefing. I wonder how many fun words they used except that lady.
Now it's illegal for all. Talking about the judge, I don't think Timothy B. Fennessy is a lady.
Well, so ladies going into the place, yes, but yeah, I am sure they had some fun names for him too.
Oh yeah, Ken Peters, the founder and director of TCAP, described the judge as a leftist, typical of the state, and described the ruling as unconstitutional.
Typical of the state in Washington? Really? Okay.
Yeah. This was a county judge. So you would expect him to be a judge typical of Spokane County, not of the state of Washington.
Right. Although I think Ken there probably meant state with a capital S and, asking for your papers state, I think is what he was after. Because he's a crazy person.
Yeah.
And if you go to TCAP's website, seriously, the first sentence on their website is a pull quote that says, "The church at Planned Parenthood, TCAP, is not..." Random caps. Aren't random caps so fun? It's not a protest, quote. "It's a worship service at the gates of hell," end quote. So there you go.
Yeah.
In case you were wondering how they're doing on their day.
He also said, quote, "This is going to stir up Christians, patriots, constitutionalists, Trump supporters. We're already getting super backed into a corner and ticked off," Peter said. "It's only going to stir us up more, and it's only going to make us more aggressive and grow our movement."
Well, that feels like a threat of violence.
That sounds like they're going to ignore the restraining order and bring guns.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Although, I gotta say, the most surprising thing about that is the idea that they don't already. I feel like that's an armed mob. Yeah. In lighter news, their website shop is broken, so you can't buy their crap.
Oh, nice.
That's a silver lining.
I find this one to be a happy win with
absolutely.
With the asterisk. We'll see if they can get anybody crazy enough to join them.
Right.
I think Ammon Bundy is a little busy at the moment. So
yeah, and hopefully for the foreseeable future.
He's working on running for governor.
Oh, I thought he was doing what his kids were doing, which is trying not to go to jail.
No, that's Cliven.
Oh.
Ammon is one of the kids who lives in Emmett, Idaho, and is preparing to run for governor, but is running into some issues since he never registered to vote. And
What?
nobody wants to be his treasurer. And you have to be a registered voter to be a campaign treasurer.
Oh, good grief. Going to the Kanye West School of Politics, eh? He ran for president without ever voting or being registered to vote. Yeah, that's horrifying. I guess I thought they were all busy just trying not to go to jail for destroying a bird sanctuary and an insurrection and such, but I guess not so much.
They all got off, and Bundy has since been he's almost been sent to jail for refusing to put on a mask to go to court for the trespassing charges.
That's
from when he broke into the state capitol.
And from when he refused to wear a mask to his kid's Little League game and then showed up with a bunch of guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened. That was a thing. Well, hopefully they don't show up in Spokane. I'm sure they've got their own cohort of nutcases, but
if they don't have enough, just a few short miles away in the Idaho Panhandle is, well, the Idaho Panhandle.
is that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, I'm sure they'll have no shortage of backers. I kind of hope that local law enforcement, probably through no small amount of poking from Judge Finnessy, does what they need to do to put that down, because you've got to think that this decision was made within the greater context of SB 8 out of Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, clearly, I think that there are some people in the legal world, even who may even agree with Texas ideologically, but recognize the terrible legal slippery slope precedent nonsense that all of this has turned into. So hopefully,
especially when you consider that the majority of the patients going into Planned Parenthood are not getting abortions.
No, not at all. For the most part, Planned Parenthood does, screenings and gives out contraceptives and,
cancer
services.
tests.
Yeah. They'll check
of services.
all of the PAPs and the things and the such. Yeah. I'm a guy. I don't know how all that goes, but they do all of it, and that's important.
Yeah.
Support your local Planned Parenthood, I guess, is the takeaway from that. In summation. Yeah. No, well, here's to hoping that continues to work well for them.
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
So for the next story, St. Mary's Church in Stockton-on-Tees, England, which is in northeastern England. It's a 1,000-year-old church. Like, the building was constructed sometime around 1020, like the year 1020.
Right. Yeah, not today before noon.
Right. So they were holding a beer festival in cooperation with Three Brothers Brewing Company to raise funds to help with building maintenance. And all was fine and good, except for the videos and pictures that went up that really pissed off a lot of locals. What had happened was they had the food trucks and the mobile bar set up in the parking lot, and people could go inside the church and hang out. And there were also tables set up in between, and people got into the between space and spread out into additional area around that and used tombstones in the cemetery for their tables.
Yeah. Although, I gotta say, did you look for the pictures and the videos?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, because when I was reading this story, I had this idea of, people like a rave in a graveyard where people were just, leaving solo cups all over hell and half of Georgia. That is not what is happening here.
No.
And nobody is knocking over tombstones to make tables. By the looks of things, they're pre-knocked over. But there's this picture, the headline, the hero image is a group of 6 people, all of whom certainly are over 50, maybe over 60, out in their camping chairs, and there's this tombstone that was felled at some point that is the size of a dinner table, and so they're using it as such. It's a couple of feet off the ground because it landed on another tombstone, and they had intentionally, like, you know, maybe you'll get to it, but the church had intended for people to use the graveyard as effectively a park.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think they intended maybe for people to use downed tombstones as tables.
They did not expect people to touch the tombstones, which is why they had tables set up near the tombstones.
Right. But not enough, apparently.
Yeah.
Or seemingly.
Or, you know, maybe they didn't plan sufficiently for people who weren't wanting to go inside the building to drink beer during a pandemic.
Right? Like, all of the available liquids inside a church are already contaminated with fecal matter. You don't need to be in the building with the air full of COVID, too. That's not...
Right.
Nobody wins that.
So people spread out outside, which is what you would expect to have happen in an event like that, and what you would definitely expect to have happen in an event like that during a global pandemic. And these weren't recent graves either.
No.
It's 1,000-year-old church with many hundreds of years old tombs.
Yeah.
Some of the most recent are from the 1700s.
Yeah, exactly. The one that I'm describing in the picture is from 1740, apparently.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I mean, I understand as a historical thing, and people are a little weird about their corpse storage. So I get it, but they had to know this was going to happen, right? Like you're literally setting up a Brewfest in a cemetery. Somebody's going to leave a beer on a tombstone. Like, have you been to a Brewfest?
Oh man, the one I've been to, the big one I went to. I've been to a couple small ones, but the big one, they weren't invited back to the park.
Oh,
let me rephrase that.
Wow.
They weren't invited back to the city of Boise.
Wow. You really have to do a job with gusto for that to be the case.
The damage done to the park was way more than the city expected.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they found an alternative in Meridian. But yeah.
They've done... I've heard of some, in fact, patrons to Interesting If True will hear the story of the world's worst Brewfest, which was the coronation of the last Tsar of Russia. But Nicholas, yeah, his Brewfest featured tens of thousands of gallons of beer and some 2,000 people dying in a crowd crush.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a mess. They just didn't bother to fill in the trenches. Like, they just put boards over them, and it's a bad show. Anyway,
wow.
The ones we have here, Little Laramie has a Brewfest every year. We usually volunteer for it, and then of course go to it. Except for the locals being a little frustrated about parking, I can't recall of it having a an event or whatever that was polarizing at in town or cost the city a bunch of money. Or the last Great American Brewfest I went to turned into kind of there's no way that the city went away with that without having to pay for a ton of repairs.
I think that was Great American Brewfest.
Yeah,
Trash Dan Morrison Park.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I know that's a big damn event, though.
It was. There was probably 15,000 people there, and there was easily hundreds of thousands of gallons of beer.
Right? Yeah, no, the Great American Brewfest is no small thing. That will definitely trash a place.
That should be at the fairgrounds,
right?
Not a park.
That should be in an event space, right?
Yeah,
like a rodeo space where everything is made out of mud and brick and you can't break anything.
Yes, exactly. Doing one in a cemetery. On the other hand, this is England. They have had a relatively dense population for a very, very long time. There are cemeteries everywhere.
That's true. And I have heard of events like Brewfest being held in cemeteries specifically for, it's October. Oh, let's do a Halloween Brewfest.
Yeah.
We're better than a cemetery, right? But yeah, I would have, it seems like it seems like maybe put out extra tables or just let people know when they buy their tickets, like, hey, it's a great, just be aware that some people are going to take this poorly. I don't know. Everybody in the picture seems to be having a great time, and that headstone is no worse for having 3 cups of beer on it.
Oh, yeah.
This feels like much ado about very, very little.
Oh, yeah.
But
it's a fun story.
It is a fun story. And apparently the event went well. They had some 40 kinds of beer, a bunch of cider, which is really nice. You don't get a lot of ciders at Brewfest. Some artisan spirits, wine, and because they hate people, Prosecco. I did actually check on Three Brothers Brewing. Apparently we've not had their beer on our shows, so
you need to fix that.
If any of our if any of your European listeners want to send us beer, that's how that works, right?
Yeah, right.
yeah, let us know. But yeah, apparently really wasn't like a lot of the event goers, like they pulled out some quotes like quote, the grave in the photo dates from the 1700s. I can't understand the vitriol here targeting the folk in the photo. Or on the other hand, why couldn't they sit on the green, which is just outside, instead of the graves? I think it's appalling. What a total lack of respect for the deceased and their families. Nobody's been buried in this graveyard recently. Recently in terms of centuries recently.
Yeah.
So, like how long are you going to have to, I don't know. Cemeteries seem like an enormous waste of space to me, so I'm probably not the voice of reason on this story.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our last story.
All right.
Where the voice of reason is still insane.
The voice of reason is terrifying and nonsensical, but at least it gets vaccinated.
Yeah. So, Kay Craig is a physical therapist who works for St. Luke's Health System in Boise, Idaho, where she has been practicing for more than 28 years.
That's terrifying.
Like the rest of the hospitals in the United States, St. Luke's has required that all employees be vaccinated.
Awesome.
All of the hospitals here instituting that requirement all allowed medical and religious exemptions. She requested a religious exemption and got it. Her description of why she requested it was, quote, I was just kind of skeptical. I didn't want to wear the mask. I didn't want to get vaccinated. I just called on God and I wanted to walk with him and be obedient. So when the mandate came out, I was again being told what to do, and I really didn't feel like God was saying to get it. He said, just wait, end quote.
Yeah, there's that obedience bit. I wonder if she was spanked. Yeah. This is insane. The number of healthcare professionals in this country who apparently don't understand how vaccines work has been a really terrifying surprise from the end of the pandemic. I really didn't see the medical establishment having such a prominent place in vaccine refusal.
Yeah, I've been shocked as well.
It's deeply disheartening, isn't it?
Yeah. So she then went on vacation and was out of the area, and when she got back, she found that the state was in crisis standards of care, that like all non-emergency surgeries were canceled, that rationing of healthcare was probable, and also the hospitals in the area all suspended their vaccine mandates.
The hell?
Because they would have had to start taking people off ventilators if they fired that many employees.
They just literally couldn't. Wow, that's deeply frightening from every angle.
There were doctors and nurses shortages nationwide before the pandemic.
Oh, sure.
It's worse now.
Yeah, I mean, it was horribly grueling and thankless, and now apparently susceptible to Q.
Yeah. So anyway, she saw all of that and decided that was God telling her to get the vaccine, so she got it.
The writing was on the wall, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. She didn't leave town for a vacation. She went out of town for surgery. That's because a month ago, they were already shutting down surgeries locally. So she had to go somewhere else to get it.
That's...
Because there's so much COVID here.
It's kind of like a mechanic having to go to a different garage. Yeah, you would think that would be a wake-up call. Apparently, when she got back, though, it was... she's got friends of family that have died of COVID in the time that she was debating with her friend in the sky. Quote, I have a very dear friend in the ICU, and it just caused me to think more and to question sick things. It sucks that somebody you know has to be on death's doorstep before you'll do the least to help.
Yeah. And
it really is the least you can do to help. It's a free vaccine. I just signed up for my booster today. Like, it's a walk-in. You just have to let them know you're coming. It's not that complicated. I'm going to go get a burger and a shot, maybe some extra bacon on that burger because I'm concerned about my health, damn it. And all that bacon grease helps the blood slide through. But yeah, it's so simple, and so many medical professionals are issuing basic precautions. But like all of the conservative radio hosts that have since died of their own willful ignorance, they all go to the hospital when they get sick, right? Like their medical skepticism starts and stops with the vaccine, and as soon as they get sick, then suddenly they're all in on all the stuff you can give them.
There are currently about 300 people 270 people in hospitals in Boise with COVID who are not vaccinated. There's only about 5 in the hospitals with COVID who are vaccinated. They're not the ones in the ICU. That's just the people who aren't vaccinated. They did, St. Owl's let the local TV stations go through recently and check out the ICU and the emergency room and the COVID ward, and
that's
actually see and show what's going on and how much they've expanded and adjusted capacity. Like, the ICU isn't full because there's no longer just the ICU. The cardiac ICU is also ICU, and the old physical therapy gymnasium is now ICU, and the day surgery recovery rooms are now ICU, and the storage closet outside of the emergency department is now ICU.
Jesus. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
I know we've got beds in the hallways. Governor Gordon, Wyoming, Governor Gordon just sent the National Guard to all of our hospitals to help triage and enforce and generally work to ease the dying who won't get vaccinated because Wyoming doesn't like vaccines, apparently.
Right.
We're ranking number 5 right now for places that suck. It's not good.
Idaho is in 3rd or 4th.
No. Well, all right.
Yeah.
I see. You just got to win at everything.
Yeah. No, it's crazy in Ada County where Boise is. You've got Meridian, which is a suburb that has its own temple because there's enough Mormons there for their own temple.
But that's going great.
You've got from the eastern edge of Boise to the Ada Canyon County line, there is a perfect gradient on vaccination rates.
Wow.
In the east,
you shouldn't be able to so easily map that.
In the east, you've got Micron engineers and not anybody else. Columbia Village is mostly Micron engineers. And as you move to the west, you get into Meridian, and the school district that decided to not do masks until they had too many staff to keep the schools open out sick.
Oh my
Yeah,
that's exciting in all the worst ways. We our schools are just about doing the same thing. We can't keep teachers in the rooms because if any student reports an exposure, then any teacher who's been around that student has to take 2 weeks of their own vacation or sick leave or just not getting paid until they're cleared to come back. It's a right and proper mess. I really thought being a university town, we wouldn't have to fight the school system quite as much as we apparently are, but we've had some pretty rough armed protests. And although the silver lining of it all, though, I got to say, is the kids, because outside of our high school here, we had the protesters, don't mask our kids, say no to masks. And so the high school kids all got together and made signs with kind of the same graphics and the same colors and the same characters as the anti-masker signs that said "Stop School Shoeings," and they'd all taken off their shoes. You can't make us wear our shoes. I was like, yeah, you guys are you're ridiculous, so we're gonna ridicule you. That's how this goes.
Right. They make you wear shirts in schools. Right?
Yeah. No shirt, no shoes, no sociology. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Or at least you'd think. But yeah, well, I'm glad that this lady finally came back to the story.
Absolutely.
Glad this lady finally came to her senses.
Yeah. Yeah, just took finding out how getting slapped up the side of the head with how bad it actually is.
It is hard to ignore when it's right in your face. Yeah.
In July and August, it was looking like it's good. We're good. No, okay. June and July, it was looking like we're good. August, it was looking like, oh shit, we're fucked. The state fair basically guaranteed it.
Yeah.
Large crowds of people partying like it's 2019. That was the official motto of the fair.
Seriously?
Yep.
Wow.
And they did.
That's really a mess.
Yeah. You can't say for sure the fair caused a huge increase in COVID numbers, but when you look at the graph, it correlates pretty nicely with right after the fair. All right, well, that's it for news. In feedback from Mrs. Bates Motel via Discord, Jesus fucking pogo stick Christ is my new fave, Lauren. Crying smiley face emojis, 3 of those. And show's been great lately. You two love it. Keep up the good work. Thank Mrs. Bates Motel.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of my favorites too. Thanks, Lauren.
I did share this message with Lauren, so she has seen it. That made her smile and laugh. And yeah, thanks that you think the show's been going great lately. It's been rough. But I keep releasing episodes every Thursday, so.
So it keeps on happening.
I've been doing this for a long time. I just keep doing it.
It's what you call habitual.
I would go insane if I didn't.
That's real true. I'm in the same boat with you there.
Yep. But yeah, so definitely appreciate that. Aaron, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, you bet.
And where can people find you again?
Hey, you bet. If you want to hear what we have to say, check out interestingiftrue.com. And since you are geographically nearby, I will put in a quick plug for WyoAIDS. Speaking of events that we couldn't have because of the pandemic, the Wyoming AIDS Assistance Program that helps Wyomingites with HIV/AIDS hasn't been able to do a fundraiser in a little while. So we're going to get back to it. October, you can find out more about that at wyoaids.org. And Interesting If True is going to buy a table, but we don't have that many people. So if you are in the Laramie, Wyoming area and you want to come to Drag Queen Bingo, we will buy you a ticket.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next week, remember, not all those who wander are lost. Thank you for listening to another episode of Atheist Nomads. You can find show notes and contact information at atheistnomads.com. Follow us on Twitter at Atheist Nomads and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/atheistnomads. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcatcher of choice, and while you're there, feel free to leave us a review. Theme music is courtesy of Sturdy Fred. Until next time, this has been the Atheist Nomads.